Hello, my name is Katie Stanley, and in this video, I'm going to be presenting my capstone research paper done in Dr. Brammer's class for a senior seminar. And the title of it is Audience Perceptions of Social Media's Ability to Solve Cold Case Investigations. The public interest in crime has existed throughout time. Media uses crime stories' popularity to create entertainment and fuel discussions. Many Reddit forums, Facebook groups, Twitter communities, and podcasts are dedicated to discussing crime, with a big focus on cold cases. Cold cases are crimes that have not yet been solved, which intrigues the audience. One of the most popular podcasts, Serial, cultivated many listeners, and according to Apple, was one of the fastest podcasts ever to reach 5 million downloads. Once the finale of the season aired, the podcast had reached more than 80 million downloads. The impact of this podcast can be seen through several cases. It has been cited by judges when deciding to grant motions or new trials, as seen in the Syed versus Maryland 2016 case. It has also fueled media that allows current inmates to tell their side of the story and claim their innocence. This genre of media has led to social media forums on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, and most creators of podcasts or documentaries on television design forums for their audiences to discuss information or even add new information after a series or episode has aired. True crime appears in social media in a great amount, and what is not yet fully understood is how social media true crime platforms assist in solving crime cases, specifically cold cases. This study seeks to explain how the information found on social media through podcasts, forums, audience engagement, discussions, contains information useful to these cases and their usefulness in the criminal justice system. So now my literature review kind of goes over some popular social media platforms and how they relate to true crime. And first with podcasts, there are over 150 true crime podcasts, and there's so many cases, particularly cold cases, that are discussed over these podcasts. Some podcasts might follow one story throughout a whole season, like Serial, but some podcasts may focus on one story each episode, like Crime Junkie. Usually the ones that investigate one story throughout a whole season aim to uncover a result. The podcast Up and Vanished investigated the disappearance of Tara Grinstead. And this case was a cold case in Ocilla, Georgia. The creator, Payne Lindsay, stayed in Georgia while investigating, and during his time there, interviewed many of the locals. Eventually, Lindsay's investigation uncovered new information regarding the case, which led to an arrest of the murders of Tara Grinstead. What's cool about these podcasts is that most creators set up a forum, usually on Facebook, and these forums invite their listeners to engage with them and share ideas, discussions, literally any information they please, and it creates an open environment to answer questions or provide information, like I said. And I'm going to insert a screen recording of a popular podcast, Someone Knows Something, their forum, and how they're discussing. Reddit is the sixth most popular social media platform in the United States. It is composed of a collection of public forums, and Reddit is broken into more than 1 million communities, which are referred to as subreddits. And all of these subreddits cover different topics. And anyone with a Reddit account can create a subreddit to discuss any topic as long as it follows the community guidelines. Volunteers, known as moderators, manage these subreddits and make sure that everyone is following the guidelines. As a whole, Reddit is governed by admins who are employees of Reddit, which includes having many powers, such as banning subreddits that are against community policies. One of the most popular subreddits is called Reddit Bureau of Investigation, with over 100,000 subscribers. This subreddit is where internet detectives thrive. The goal of this page is to solve real-world problems. However, the sleuthing does not stop there. Users have posted information asking for help and in turn have received that information, which has led to the solving of criminal investigations. One rule for the RBI is that the users are not allowed to post criminal matter nor personal information. Some of the popular RBI posts are titled, "How do I know if my online friend died?" and "Receiving DMs from a man sharing horrific fantasies of murdering his sister." These subreddits sometimes border the line of criminal activity, but moderators like DJ Nally, who is a licensed private investigator, make sure that no criminal investigations are discussed. If they are discussed, the post is deleted, and in some cases, the user could be banned from the page completely. I'm going to insert a really popular subreddit, and it's basically just a huge discussion of true crime cases, not even one specific. Everybody has the freedom to post any true crime case that they're interested in and start a discussion. On September 22nd, 2012, Jillian Mayer went missing after a night out in the suburb of Brunswick. Her husband quickly notified police when she didn't return home. On September 23rd, 2012, a Facebook group called Help Us Find Jill Mayer was created for the purpose of giving those with any source of information a platform to give it on. There was a huge level of interest in the group, and it soon accumulated 90,000 followers. On the 25th of September, a shop owner shared footage from her store that included Mayer, and after this footage was released, a woman came forward saying that one of the men that Mayer was seen talking to had approached and assaulted them. This man was Adrian Bailey, and on September 27th, he was arrested for Mayer's disappearance. Creators of podcasts create forums in Facebook for their audience to post in and discuss episodes. This gives a gateway for the audience to interact with the creators. For example, the podcast Crime Junkie has a forum for their audience, as well as Someone Knows Something, Carrie Brown. However, these forums don't always have to be for podcast users. There is a group dedicated to Jalea Davis, a woman killed in Marietta, Ohio. Her death was suspicious, and her mother was out to find the truth. She created a Facebook page called Justice for Jalea, and she keeps the page updated and encourages interaction on the page. Being in a small community, the page has a lot of supporters, 29,000 to be exact. And this support led to the case being shown in an investigation discovery episode, as well as a podcast covering the events called Mile Marker 181. This study is also going to uncover whether or not true crime social media users are a part of an active audience. Now, an active audience has three parts. One is interactivity, and interactivity is the degree to which participants in a communication process have control over and can exchange roles in their mutual discourse, according to Williams, Rice, and Rogers. And having control allows a user the ability to choose when, what, and how they consume their information. The second part is demassification, and this is the user's ability to decide what portions of the media they want to consume. And the third part of an active audience is asynchronity, and this term is defined as communication that allows for the sending and receiving of messages at the time convenient for the user, according to William, Rice, and Rogers once again. And all social media is available for users to take advantage of at their own convenience. When combining these three characteristics of an active audience, you can see that true crime media users can have control of when they want to choose to take advantage of these different platforms that they have access to. With so many platforms of social media available to connect with others, there are many outlets for true crime users to connect and share information with each other. With this concept of active audiences, we can study the motivations behind audience members and why they choose to discuss information on platforms, as well as share information they might have about cases. This information shared could lead to criminal cases being solved. As a result, the research questions that this study is going to seek to answer are: 1, do social media users who join crime forums report more positive beliefs about the ability to solve cold cases than social media users who do not join crime forums? 2nd, what motivations do social media users who join crime forums report for their participation? Now on to the method. Social media users above the age of 18 were recruited to be participants of the online survey via my personal Facebook and Twitter account. The procedure for this survey was to conduct it online via Qualtrics, and it consisted of 3 parts once they got past the demographics section. And part 1 questioned all participants on their social media use, and part 2 questioned participants on their beliefs of if social media could aid in solving cold case investigations. And part 3 questioned the participants who do use their social media for true crime engagement, what their motivations for engagement were. And this section was mirrored off of research done by Bowling and Hall in 2018. Their study examined motivations in the true crime podcast audience. For the instrumentation of part 1, which questioned participants about their social media use, they just had to answer one question, which was a multiple choice question where they selected what social media platforms they use on a daily basis. The second question in part 1 asked participants if they use these particular social media platforms to participate or engage in true crime forums. This was a yes or no question. And for the instrumentation of part 2, which was the section where participants were questioned on the ability of social media to solve cold cases, participants answered a question on their beliefs on whether or not social media has the ability to aid in solving cold cases. This was a yes or no question, and the second question asked participants if they believe that true crime forums have a chance of containing important information pertaining to cold cases. This was also a yes or no question. For part 3, we questioned the participants about their motivations for engagement. This part in the survey examined the motivations behind the social media users partaking in the true crime forums. The motivational factors were taken from the study of Bowling and Hall, and these motivations were relaxation, arousal, boredom, habit, escapism, entertainment, social interaction, news and information, hobby, convenience, and voyeurism. Respondents could answer with agree, somewhat agree, neither, somewhat disagree. For the results section of the study, the demographics section found that a majority of the respondents were between the ages of 18 and 24, female, white, and the most reoccurring education levels were some college and a 4-year degree. When asking participants if they use their social media to engage in true crime forums, 38 respondents said they did, while 56 respondents said they did not. However, 88 respondents claimed they did believe that social media could aid in solving cold cases, which was 94.62%. Only 5.38% didn't think social media would be beneficial to cold case investigations. 47 participants continued to be questioned on their motivations behind using true crime forums. There was a large difference in the gender in these participants, with 42 females and 5 males. The top motivations recorded were convenience, entertainment, and boredom. So to answer research question 1, out of 47 respondents who use true crime social media, 45 responded that they do believe that social media could aid in solving cold cases. Out of the other 47 who did not use true crime media, only 3 said they did not believe that social media could assist in solving cold cases. So yes, those who do use true crime forums did believe at a higher rate that social media could solve cold case investigations. To answer the research question 2, the top motivations true crime social media users report are convenience, entertainment, and boredom. Bowling and Hall discovered that men and women reported motivations almost identically, but to differing degrees. My study conducted also found this to be true. However, there were only 5 men who completed part 3, but both men and women reported entertainment, convenience, and boredom as their top motivations. For the men, the selection of agree was only selected out of 3 out of 11 motivations. Most responses were somewhat agree, neither, and disagree. Women tended to answer with agree more often. So this finding mirrors Bowling and Hall's discovery that women have stronger levels of agreement. There was no correlation found between age or gender and whether or not a respondent believed that social media could solve cold cases. The most frequent reported social media was Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram, while the lowest was Reddit and podcast platforms. Bowling and Hall discovered that podcast consumers tend to be between the ages of 18 to 34 or 35 to 54, and respondents of this survey were heavily weighted in the 18 to 34 category with a little over 67%. It is reported that the podcasting audience is mostly male at 56%, and the audience for this survey was predominantly female at a little over 85%. However, when questioning respondents' social media use, only 18.94% of participants claim to use podcasts. Of those who claim to use social media as a way to engage with true crime information, only 14.73% of participants used podcasts. According to Bowling and Hall in 2010, Vicari and Fraley researched why women are attracted to the true crime genre of literature. Their findings led them to believe that women appeared to be attracted to books with female lead characters or victims. They also felt like they might be able to use the information discussed in the books for survival. Since the respondents of the survey who participated in true crime platforms were predominantly female with a little above 85%, it may be possible that the findings from Vicari and Fraley pertain to the motivations behind females using true crime social media. However, within the female respondents, news and information was not in the top 5 motivations and only had a selection rate of 42.92%. Future research could be done on why women are more drawn to the true crime social media, which could in turn help crime content creators. In Chung and Kim's study on podcast and education, the researcher discovered that habit and education were top motivations. There was also a strong correlation between gender and motivational factors. Women were significantly more likely to listen to true crime podcasts for the social interaction, escapism, and voyeuristic tendencies. However, in this study, the motivations behind men and women showed little to no correlation. In fact, both men and women reported the same 3 motivations. Chung and Kim also discovered that women were more engaged in podcasts, but were also more likely to visit an online discussion, to read. Hull and Bowling's study uncovered that the true crime podcast audience does fit the mold of an active audience because they reported that they do interact with the podcast-specific communities. However, in this study, out of the social media users who took it, 40.43% claimed they partook in true crime forums and platforms on social media. This study also showed that true crime social media is demassified, and there is not one central place where an audience is finding true crime platforms. The last part of active audiences is asynchronity, and respondents recorded that one of their top motivations for engaging within true crime media is for the convenience. Both men and women reported that as their top motivation. In the future, researchers could study how often audiences partake in true crime social media and actively aid in gathering and giving new information pertaining to the topic case. Researchers could also take a look into females, their motivations behind engaging, and by Carey and Fraley's 2010 study of the interest in females in the true crime genre. Future studies may want to reword the motivation section and make it a little more clear, or leave them as open-ended to dive deeper into understanding the true motivations behind an audience in true crime social media. It is also suggested that the survey is open to an equal number of men and women to avoid the study leaning heavy on one particular side. I think one of the major correlations in the study was my female following ratio on Facebook and Twitter, obviously, since that's where the survey was put out. But in conclusion, media uses true crime stories popularity to create entertainment and fuel discussions. The audiences of these types of media have the option to sit back, relax, read, listen, or partake in the action. An active audience could help lead the way to new information and finding answers in cold case investigations. The finding and implications of this study offer true crime social media users and content creators a look into the audience. And the findings suggest that true crime media audiences do believe that the information found on social media could aid in solving cold case investigations. The motivations behind these users engaging with true crime media are convenience, boredom, and entertainment.